In today's first reading, an older man that thinks there's no way on earth he's going to be a father is told, your descendants will be as numerous as the stars. God takes what he has expected and flips it on its head. Folks, that's the thread throughout today's readings. That our path with God changes over time. That our expectations for what is going to happen in our life changes. In our gospel reading, we see Jesus and his disciples, and three of his disciples, ascend a mountain to be in prayer with God. And lo and behold, Moses and Elijah appear. And Jesus is transfigured. His form is glorified in beauty. Why? Well, for us to understand this, I think it's better that we understand the context that Jesus lived in. In Jesus' time, there was a Roman Empire oppressing all of the nations surrounding it, especially the people of Israel and Judah. And these people were holding an expectation that a Messiah would come. Raise your hand if you know there's somebody else called the Messiah in the Bible, other than Jesus. Cyrus. John the Baptist was asked if he is the Messiah, the one that they were waiting for. Elijah was called a Messiah. But the common thread actually between Cyrus and David and all of the other folks called the Messiah is that they were ushering in a new age, usually 99% of the time, with military force. Cyrus, remember, if we think back to our Bible study as a kid, was the leader of the Persian Empire that freed the Jewish people from Babylonian exile, liberated them. And it wasn't with smiles, folks. It was with force, with swords and horses and bows and arrows. And that's exactly what the Jewish people thought the new Messiah was going to be doing for them. And so, thus we're presented with a problem. Jesus is a man talking about how we need to be nice to each other and turn the other cheek. He's not talking about killing all the people that have oppressed us. And that's the problem we wrestle with today. That's why it's there, this transfiguration. That's why Jesus ascended up the mountain with his disciples and was vindicated by Elijah, the greatest of the prophets, and Moses, the giver of the law. This was a moment of great and radical transformation. It was the moment that the path the Jewish people thought they were on completely shifted. It's the moment God said, "This is my son." In other words, he is the Messiah, not in spite of the fact he's not going to be a military ruler, but because of it. Because we get to see what actually does glorify Jesus. It's his teachings and what? His resurrections. So what does that mean for us? Well, Lent is a time about journeying with God, right? It's about taking a path that we think we're on and walking it and seeing where it goes. And when I was in college, I thought I was on a path to be an attorney. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then I took a world religions course and thought, I actually kind of like the study of religion. Then I thought, I want to be a theology teacher. So I started teaching theology at a Roman Catholic high school. And then I felt troubled by this change I wanted to make from within the church that I felt couldn't actually happen. That I felt was too distant, too far, too elusive. And so I found independent Catholicism. And lo and behold, I walk on a path and become a chaplain. And through this path, I found myself in Dallas working as a chaplain for a hospice. And then one day I get a call, we're cutting all the chaplains to part-time for the company. And then I realized that the biggest change that was about to happen is that I wasn't going to make my rent. Amen. And on that path, I then found my way to Austin. It was a place that had a job that I would really have liked to have done, and I got it, and found myself coming to Holy Family for a gathering that Father Jamie had organized for independent, inclusive Catholic clergy. From there, I started visiting with you folks and found a beautiful love and devotion to Holy Family, to the folks here, to my ministry here, and to your ministry to me. And so I went from a visiting priest to an associate pastor, found myself in love with this idea of pastoral ministry. Things changed, and things changed for us. Amen?
Amen.
And once I started walking this path, I realized, we're 3 years into my ministry here, and I began prayerfully discerning what my next step would be. And today, I'm announcing that I have found a new change to my path that includes an inclusive Catholic parish in Georgetown. But my commitment to you all remains steadfast. My commitment to this movement remains steadfast. Why? Because I think we represent a beautiful change in the world. In this season about walking with God, about journeying with God into change, we represent the change to include women in ministry, the change to include LGBT folks at every level of the church, a change to include divorced folks who can't take communion in other churches. God is all about change. It's not that God changes. It's that we and our understanding of God changes over time. God is the same God that loves Abraham, or that loved Abraham in the reading today. God is the same God that walked alongside the disciples and offered a blessing of Jesus. God is the same God, the God of love and inclusion. But change is hard for us sometimes. I know this change is going to be hard for me. But embracing change and walking with God is how we come into deeper relationship with Him. Amen?
Amen.